Anyone can bear fruit once, but lasting fruit, the kind that lasts far beyond this season that we're in and that nourishes that season far beyond too, that kind of fruit comes only from pruning, from process, through patience, and through staying rooted in God. Welcome to the Weekday Refill. My name is Sarissa Latoy. I am the Dreamcaster. I am a seasoned interior designer, an author, and a coach and mentor to Christian interior designers just like you. This is the Weekday Refill. It is a moment for us to pause, center on God, and refill so that we can serve from our overflow. Thank you so much for being here. Today, we're going to continue our conversation on consistency is a way of life. And really, what we're going to focus on is fruit that lasts. I came in the kitchen to make some coffee and get my breakfast together, but I should have got my Bible. Let me pop over and get my Bible real quick. Stand by. All right, I got quite a few Bibles over here, so I had to pick which one I wanted to go get real quick. But we are going to read from John chapter 15, which is one of my favorite books, rather, and chapters in the Bible. But in John chapter 15, the Lord is talking about the true vine and that he is the true vine. And it's important for us to stay connected to the true vine. So here we go. I had to get my New King James Version because this got bigger text. I can't be out here squinting in the video for you guys. But I'm going to read John 15 and 16. And it says, you did not choose me, but I chose you, and I appointed you that you should go and bear fruit, and that your fruit should remain, that whatever you ask the Father in my name, he may give you. Now, I really love this, that he wants us to go. The Lord truly is a God about activity, but not the wrong activity. He wants us to do the right activity in the right season. He wants us to go and to bear fruit. Now, what's really cool is that the fruit that he wants us to bear is not out of our own regard, our own trying, our own whatever, our own anything. It's simply and merely out of what God himself is doing. And he is, he's the Lord of the harvest, right? And so he's in charge of how we bear fruit. I love it. I love him. And I want to just jump up to John 15 and 5. The first thing that Jesus said here is, he said, I am the vine and you are the branches. He who abides in me and I in him bears much fruit, for without me you can do nothing. And I really love how those two scriptures link together for the purpose of what I've been meditating on in terms of consistency being a way of life, right? The Lord really desires for us to be consistent with him, to walk with him, and to be a part of what I'll call is the cycle, like the good cycles, like I talked about last week, that he wants us to be within, right? And then when we do that, it says in the word that we will bear much fruit. Here's the deal. The world is obsessed, right, with fast fruit, microwave results, viral wins, instant success, like all of this. But that's not true. Jesus requires for us to be connected to him. And in being connected to him, we have to be patient. And in order for us to produce lasting fruit, we have to bear in mind that before we produce all this fruit in the natural world, we have to allow for Holy Spirit to produce fruit for us in the spirit realm. Galatians 5:22 and 23 gives us all of the fruit of the Spirit. And as no matter if you are an entrepreneur, or if you are doing this design career as working for someone, you've got to be able to produce all the fruits of the Spirit, to be able to do it well, and to have lasting fruit. Your lastingness of your fruit in the spirit realm also produces lasting fruit in the physical realm, in this world, in your life, in your business, and in all of your endeavors. Now, as I was thinking about this, I was reminded about Blockbuster. And Blockbuster um, was really funny and showed me something about lasting fruit that is also important. And I'm going to tell you about Blockbuster, and then I'm going to tell you what we should learn about lasting fruit in Blockbuster. Now, when I grew up as a kid, my mother and I used to go to Blockbuster here in Universal City every single Friday almost. And we would pick up a couple of videos. She would get one video, and I would get another video or whatever for us to watch. And it was so much fun going and having that experience and everything. Well, at some point in time in Blockbuster's history, they were approached by Netflix, and Netflix was like, hey, there's a new thing happening in the world today. And that new thing is streaming and whatnot. And Blockbuster was like, oh no, I'm good. We're going to stay with what we've been doing, not going to make any changes. Our customers are coming back and back. Sarissa and her mother are coming back and back. And we don't even need to look like, to look into that. No. So they refused Netflix. Well, what was really interesting is that in their refusal of Netflix, they did not recognize that it was a season of pruning, right? Because things were changing. The climate was shifting. There were advancements being made. And in order for them to produce and continue to produce much fruit, they were going to have to prune some things that didn't make sense, right? And that was their previous and their current business model. And I think that that's something that's really cool, because sometimes we don't think that we just think that God is pruning the bad stuff. No, sometimes God prunes from us things that feel and seem like they could be profitable, but in the long run, there are things that are preventing our whole tree from growing and blooming so that we can produce much fruit in seasons to come, season after season after season. Well, Blockbuster refused to be pruned. They refused to cut back the things that they needed to cut back in that season. And you know what happened? Netflix took over. You know what happened? Netflix took over. They overcame them with much fruit at that time because they were tapping into what the market was actually doing. As I said, sometimes you got to let go of things that don't make sense in order for you to move forward into where God wants you and desires for you to be. And it is not comfortable. Let me tell you, the ways that we once do things in our business. I've been a designer for 20 years. I've been in business for 15. And trust me, I've had to cut things that didn't make sense. And I had to revise and redo things that didn't make sense. But every time I did, I had exponential growth and sustained growth, right? From season to season. When I was first starting, I was working with clients that were of a modest income, right? they made a modest amount of money. And as I was working with them, um, their budgets were small. That's just the bottom line. They had small budgets. And as I began to desire and really get opened up to clientele with higher budgets and higher end projects, I realized that what I was doing before, I couldn't do anymore. So I really, in that moment, asked the Lord, what are we cutting? And what do I need to produce in order for me to continue to serve these new clients that you have given me? Because the truth of the matter is that it's changing. Now, what's really cool is that I was able to make those pivots, and in making the pivots to serve a different community and a different income bracket of people, I ended up spending less time running and working to make ends meet and doing my projects, spending more time producing fulfilling projects, fulfilling for me and fulfilling for my clients, right? And so, like, my tree flourished, but it didn't make sense in the season for me to be able to cut back the thing. And so it's just important to know that we have to pay attention when God is asking for us to prune, because he's not trying to create fruit just for now, just for this season. He is trying to create and develop in our tree. Remember, the Lord said that we are trees of righteousness. He's trying to develop in our tree a tree that produces fruit in abundance year after year after year after year. And that takes persistence, pruning, patience, time, process, like all the P's. It takes all of that for us to be able to do that. Here's the truth, right? When we prune, what does it look like? Like I just said, it looks like loss, but you're extending the lifespan of the tree. It's actually producing life. I told you the other day, last week, that the cycles that God creates in life, the cycle of seed time, harvest, day, night, cold, hot, summer, winter, etc., etc., etc. These cycles produce life. They are life giving. And in order for you to tap into life, tap into the abundance that God has called you to have, you've got to recognize that pruning is a part of that. It doesn't feel good, it doesn't look good, but hey, it's a part of it. Because fruit that lasts isn't just about endurance, it's about rhythm. You grow, you cut, you grow, you cut, you rest, you grow again. Kind of like the poem that I wrote, repeat. It's repeating and repeating and repeating, right? Consistency is a way of life because consistency puts us into the flow, into the rhythm of what God has already created. That law of repetition at work is so important in our lives and in all of creation. One last designer um, link that I want to share is this, right? We have trends and we have timeless designs, trendy and timeless. Like one is like really cool, here for a few minutes. That's what it feels like. And then the other, can last a lifetime. I have my favorite timeless design is mid-century modern. Many other people have their personal favorites. I have a lot of creators that I watch here on YouTube that are really into Victorian times and whatnot. Like whatever season it is that you admire and you like there's things within those seasons that are timeless and last a long time, right? They're fruit that lasts. And then there are trendy things, right? There are some things that are trends that that seem to be quote unquote timeless, but they're really trends masquerading. And that is like gray everywhere is a trend that is masquerading as timelessness. And it's just really no risk. But I digress. Uh, anyways, and no character. Okay. But when you create a design, right, a project that is timeless, even years and years and years later, it's still going to have the same beauty and serve your client to the same capacity. It's going to like grow with them, right? And I'm reminded of this particular client that I worked with for several years. We did our first project together, I want to say like 2014, 2013. And over the course of about 6 years, I ended up remodeling him and his partner's whole entire condominium. And it was a lot of fun, right? And sadly, they sold their condo and they moved out of state. And when they moved out of state, he called me, my client called me up, and he was like, hey, we're moving. Just wanted to let you know that we're moving. And also wanted to let you know that our realtor just came by the house for the first time, and he's looking at everything, and he was like, my God, this is wonderful. We're going to be able to sell this no problem, real fast. I was a little nervous because this condo is well over 10 years old. And you told us that you bought into this condo when they first went on to sale. So you've had it for a good long time, right? And so they were expecting something that needed to be upgraded um, for them to be able to sell it. Well, what they got was a beauty. And there were things that I had done that was from that, again, as I said, 10 years old. And it was still absolutely gorgeous, still absolutely on point and on cue for the present day. It still looked modern. It still looked current. It was amazing. And the realtor was like, wow, your designer has made it easy for us to be able to sell your home. And easy it was. And they were able to sell their home and recoup a lot of the monies that they spent on the remodel. Now, that is just an example of, even in our work, how when we are rooted in God and we are patient and we work through our projects diligently and we look to produce solutions that are lasting for our clients, that we actually can create fruit that lasts. The fruit that we are able to partner with God in developing are multifold. It's our spiritual fruit in ourselves first, the fruit in our relationships, in our family, and also the fruit outside of us, like the fruit in our business and the fruit within our clients and for our clients' homes. And this is exactly the reason why I say that interior design is ministry, because only going into a home and creating a piece of fruit, a project that continues to produce year over year over year over year, and all your client has to do really is sweep, mop, touch up paint where necessary, is creating something, is creating fruit that lasts. And that's amazing. It's amazing to be a part of that creative process with the Lord. And it's amazing in knowing that interior design is ministry. So I just want you, if you haven't already taken and settled that in your heart, if you're new to this channel and you're just finding out who I am and all of this stuff, know this one thing to be true. Interior design is ministry, and you were called to serve. So my friends, design, serve, and thrive. Go out there and design, serve, and thrive, and do it again. Design, serve, thrive, and repeat. And the rest in there in between as well. But go out and do what God has called you to do. And if this message inspired you, lifted you up, encouraged you, gave you the wherewithal to continue, I recommend, please, pass this on to another interior designer. Let's grow this channel so that we can grow this community, so that we can all come together as Christian interior designers and do what God has called us to do in the earth, which is move and serve in ministry. Be his hands and feet. You're already affecting your clients' lives. You're already impacting them in ways beyond their wildest dreams and imagination when they sign on the dotted line and paid you the money that they paid you to do the service. But when you tap into the fact that you were called to this, when that this is ministry, you're able to do much more and bear much fruit. And my friend, it doesn't even matter if your client is a believer or not. You are a representative of the Lord every place that you step your foot. So you might as well step your foot into the confidence that you are called to serve, and the confidence that if you consistently move and go along with the patterns that God has set forth, that you will thrive. So design, serve, and thrive. And I will see you tomorrow for another weekday refill. Be blessed and have a stupendous, wonderful, prosperous Monday. Bye.